He bragged about hunting Deathworlders, she asked. Did any of them hunt you back? He looked out at the world below, a jungle so dense it seemed alive, its trees twisting in unnatural shapes, their leaves glowing faintly with bioluminescence. He smiled, a mixture of excitement and pride curling at the corner of his mouth. Another easy hunt, he said aloud, though the crew could hear him through the comms. This planet doesn't stand a chance. Behind him, the rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances. Jaren was known for his confidence. He had traveled to more hostile planets than anyone else in the fleet, and he spoke of his victories often, sometimes in vivid, almost theatrical detail. Dr. Leora Vance sat quietly in the corner, her gaze fixed on the view screen. She was a xenobiologist, an expert in alien ecosystems, and she had seen Deathworlds before. But Nox 9 was different. Its life form seemed to possess intelligence beyond instinct, and Leora's instincts told her this hunt would not be simple. You really think you can take on everything this planet throws at us? She asked softly, more to herself than to anyone else. Jaren chuckled without turning. Everything on this rock is smaller than a starship, faster than your average human, sure, but outsmart us, not a chance. Leora tilted her head. Did any of them ever hunt you back? The question hung in the air like a sudden storm. The words were simple, but the meaning was sharp. Silence fell over the cockpit. Jaren's confident smile faltered for a fraction of a second. He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came. The crew felt it, the first tremor of doubt. Ah, you're worried about them? Jaren finally said, forcing a grin. Don't, they're just animals, nothing more. But Leora's eyes did not leave him. There was no fear in her gaze, only observation and quiet understanding. She knew, as the rest of the crew would soon learn, that Nox 9 was no ordinary hunting ground. The landing was tense. The ship shuddered as it cut through the thick atmosphere, and the hull groaned under the weight of gravity and wind. Outside, the jungle stretched endlessly, a kaleidoscope of strange colors and eerie movements. Shadows shifted unnaturally, even before the sun had fully risen. Jaren's boots hit the ground first, kicking up dust that glowed faintly in the dim light. He waved his hand at the crew. Stay close. Nothing here moves faster than me. Leora stepped carefully, her boots pressing softly on the alien soil. She scanned the surroundings, noting the faint footprints of creatures, some smaller than a human hand, some massive and unlike anything she had ever catalogued. Some of the tracks suggested intelligence. The creatures were not moving randomly, but with purpose. As the crew began to set up their temporary base, Jaren's confidence seemed to grow. He unpacked his weapons, each more advanced than anything available on standard starships. These things can take down anything, he said proudly, pointing at a sleek rifle designed to fire concentrated plasma bursts. I've faced beasts bigger than this entire jungle. Nox 9 will be fun. Leora didn't reply. Instead, she knelt beside a plant with shimmering leaves that moved slightly, as if responding to her presence. She made careful notes, her fingers brushing lightly against the foliage. These plants aren't passive, she murmured. They react to movement, heat, and even sound. This world is alive in ways most humans wouldn't understand. Jaren snorted. You worry too much. We're humans. We survive everywhere. Leora looked up, her gaze sharp. Survive, yes. Dominate, maybe not. Remember your question, Captain. Did any of them ever hunt you back? He waved her concern away, but a shadow crossed his features. Deep inside, a seed of doubt took root. He had faced predators, beasts, and monsters on other worlds, but something about Nox 9 felt different. He could sense a subtle intelligence watching them, waiting, analyzing their movements. The first night was quiet, almost eerily so. The crew sat around a makeshift fire, its heat battling the damp chill of the jungle. Jaren regaled them with stories, tales of hunts on distant worlds, creatures he had killed, monsters he had outsmarted. The firelight glinted off his armor, making him look like a hero in a storybook. Leora listened, occasionally jotting down notes about his descriptions of alien behaviors. But she noticed things the stories didn't cover, patterns in the jungle, the unnatural silence that fell when they moved, and the subtle rustling that suggested they were being watched. You talk a lot about killing them, she said finally, her voice cutting through his storytelling. But have you ever considered that maybe they're watching you, learning from you? The question made several crew members shift uncomfortably. Jaren laughed, a short, sharp sound. Then they're welcome to try, they'll fail. But that night, as the fire burned low and the crew slept, something moved just beyond the edge of the light. A pair of glowing eyes watched silently, analyzing every motion, every breath. It was not human, not even animal in the sense Jaren understood. Its movements were calculated, precise, deliberate. Morning brought a new awareness. Footprints had appeared overnight, tracks that did not belong to any known species. They were not random. They were patterns as if something had circled the camp, observing, testing. Jaren crouched, examining the prints with a casual air. "Just animals," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Leora shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "They're more than animals. Someone or something has been here before us. It's studying us, learning us, and I don't think it's friendly." Jaren frowned, irritation flashing in his eyes. "You're imagining things nothing on this planet is smart enough to." A sudden roar cut him off, echoing through the jungle. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Birds, if they could be called that, screamed and scattered, flying into the sky in chaotic patterns. Trees shook violently as something massive moved through the undergrowth. The crew froze. Even Jaren, the seasoned hunter, felt the tight knot of fear in his chest. Leora stood slowly, eyes wide but steady. "See," she said softly. "They're not just hunting, they're strategizing." From the shadows, a massive silhouette emerged. A creature taller than any human, its limbs long and powerful, its movements deliberate. It didn't charge immediately, only observed, its head tilting as if measuring their strength. Its skin glimmered faintly, reflecting the jungle light in strange patterns, and its eyes, intelligent, calculating, locked on Jaren. For the first time, the hunter felt the weight of being prey. His weapons, his training, his arrogance, all of it seemed insignificant compared to the silent, patient predator before him. Jaren raised his rifle slowly, hand trembling slightly. Leora stepped beside him, calm but firm. "Do not shoot unless you must," she warned. "We don't know what this is capable of. Watch, learn, and survive." The creature tilted its head again, then vanished into the jungle as silently as it had appeared. The crew exhaled collectively, the tension slowly leaving their bodies, but a new awareness had taken its place. Nox 9 was not just a hunting ground. It was alive, it was intelligent. And humans, despite their weapons and skill, were not the dominant species here. Jaren sank to the ground, running a hand over his face. Maybe your question was right," he muttered. "Maybe some of them do hunt us back." Leora gave him a small, knowing smile. "And maybe, Captain," she said softly, "that's exactly why humans can survive. Because we can learn, adapt, and outthink even the deadliest hunters, but arrogance will get us killed." As the sun rose higher, casting strange colors across the jungle canopy, the crew prepared to move deeper into Nox 9. Every step forward would be a test of courage, skill, and intelligence. And though the hunter had survived countless worlds, he now understood a simple truth. On a death world, humans could survive, but only if they respected the intelligence around them. The hunt had only just begun. The jungle of Nox 9 was alive in a way that no human mind had ever fully grasped. Every leaf, every rustling branch seemed deliberate, as if the entire forest was aware of their presence. Captain Jaren Kale led his team forward, his boots crunching against alien undergrowth that seemed to shift underfoot, almost moving to guide or block them. "Keep your eyes open," he barked, trying to reclaim the authority that had once felt natural. "We're here to hunt, not be hunted." Dr. Leora Vance, walking just behind him, did not reply. She already knew better. Her sharp eyes scanned the trees, the thick roots, the glowing vines that hung like living chains. The signs were everywhere, tracks that ended abruptly, broken branches that suggested more than mere weight, and shadows that moved in ways no ordinary animal could. "Captain," she said carefully, breaking the silence, "I think they're following us, not randomly, deliberately." "They know where we go," Jaren smirked, though unease tugged at his chest. "They're just curious," he said. "Curiosity is easy to deal with. We'll scare them off if they get too close." Leora shook her head. "It's not curiosity, it's intelligence. They're learning from us." The words made several crew members glance at each other nervously. Humans had always survived dangerous worlds because of their skill and courage. But this was different. They were not facing mindless predators. They were being measured, calculated, studied. Their first encounter came unexpectedly. A low growl, almost imperceptible at first, vibrated through the ground. Jaren raised his plasma rifle, scanning the dense foliage. Then a creature leapt from the shadows, tall, sinewy, with limbs that seemed too long for its body. Its skin shimmered with faint colors, blending perfectly with the jungle. It didn't attack, only landed gracefully and stared. Its gaze was intelligent, calculating, and it held them all in an uneasy pause. "Steady," Jaren whispered, though his confidence was cracking. Don't do anything stupid." The creature studied them for a moment longer, then vanished as silently as it had appeared, leaving no trace except the faintest indentation in the soft soil. Leora knelt to inspect the mark. "See, they're testing us. They want to know what we can do." "What's the point of testing?" one crew member asked nervously. "If they want to kill us, why not attack?" "Because," Leora said slowly, "they're smart enough to know brute force alone doesn't work with humans. They want to understand us first. And that is dangerous." Jaren gritted his teeth, frustration mixing with fear. He had survived predators on worlds where the atmosphere burned like acid, where the ground itself was a trap. He had faced creatures that could crush a starship hull. And yet this was something new, something that refused to be measured by past experience. The crew pressed forward cautiously, moving deeper into the jungle. Every step felt deliberate, every noise amplified. Birds that weren't birds shrieked above them, darting between the glowing foliage, while vines shifted slightly as if pointing the way or warning them off. Suddenly, a trap snapped. A vine, nearly invisible, whipped across the path, slicing through the thick leaves and missing Jaren by inches. He stumbled, catching himself just before falling. "What the?" he started, but Leora raised a hand. "They're learning," she said calmly. "They watch, they adapt." That was no accident. Jaren tightened his grip on his rifle. "We're humans. Nothing alive can outsmart humans. Nothing." But the jungle seemed to mock him. From the shadows, faint movement hinted at another presence. The creature from before, or another like it, was observing, waiting, ready to strike if a mistake was made. Hours passed. The team moved slowly, every sound amplified in the heavy, humid air. Jaren tried to assert control, scanning with his weapons, calling out warnings. But Leora's observations began to change their strategy. She noticed patterns in the attacks or near attacks. The vines and tracks weren't random. The glowing eyes in the dark weren't simply reflecting light. They were marking movement, mapping the human's behavior. "They're coordinating," she whispered. "It's not one, it's many. They've organized themselves to test us, push us, and see how we react." Jaren frowned. "Organized? You're overthinking. It's a jungle. It's instinct, not planning." Leora shook her head. "Instinct doesn't leave traces like this. Instinct doesn't adapt to us in real time. We are being hunted, and the hunters are learning faster than we are." For the first time, Jaren felt the weight of vulnerability. He had always been the one to lead the hunt, to dominate. But here his role was reversed. He was being measured, assessed, and the consequences of a mistake were deadly. Their first serious attack came at dusk. The light was fading, casting long shadows through the twisted trees. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shifted violently. A massive creature, nearly invisible against the jungle, lunged from the undergrowth. Its claws swiped through the air with terrifying precision, narrowly missing one crew member. Jaren fired, the plasma bolt hitting the creature's shimmering hide. It yelped, a sound both alien and intelligent, then disappeared into the dark. The crew was shaken but unharmed. Leora studied the traces left behind. "See," she said. "They test, they retreat, they watch how we respond. They're teaching themselves to hunt humans." Jaren's face hardened. "Then we teach them something too," he said. He realized that survival would require more than firepower. It would require thinking, observation, and adaptation. As night fell, the crew made camp, tension thick in the air. They huddled close, weapons ready, scanning the dark around them. The glowing eyes of the jungle seemed to follow every movement. "Humans have survived worse," Jaren muttered to himself, though his voice lacked its usual certainty. "We adapt, we overcome, we survive." Leora nodded, knowing he was beginning to understand. Survival on Nox 9 wouldn't be about dominance. It would be about intelligence, teamwork, and respect for the alien predators. The next day, they moved again, guided partly by Jaren's skill and partly by Leora's observations. They started noticing subtle clues, broken branches arranged like markers, patterns in the undergrowth, and the faintest traces of communication between the creatures. "See these?" Leora pointed. "They're signaling each other, and they know our routines already. If we make a mistake," she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Jaren's pride was tested. He had always relied on strength and weapons, but here in the heart of Nox 9, those tools were not enough. Observation, analysis, and strategy were just as important. maybe even more so. A major test came at the river crossing. The water was shallow but fast-moving, and the banks were lined with tall, glowing reeds. As the crew began to cross, they noticed subtle movements, ripples that were too precise, reflections that shifted unnaturally. Suddenly, several creatures leapt from the banks. Jaren's rifle roared, bolts of plasma cutting through the twilight. But the creatures were agile, intelligent, and coordinated. They didn't attack blindly, they circled, feinted, and retreated. For the first time, the humans were forced to fight with strategy, not just reflex. Leora directed their movements. Use the terrain, don't chase blindly. Force them to show themselves first? The crew adapted quickly. Humans had survived worse, and their ability to learn in the moment proved invaluable. They avoided casualties, but the creatures disappeared before they could retaliate. The forest fell silent again, almost as if satisfied with the lesson they had imparted. Jaren lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. I underestimated them, he admitted quietly. They're not animals, not really. Leora gave him a small, approving nod. And now you understand what I meant, she said. Some of them do hunt you back. The revelation settled over the team. Fear mingled with respect. For the first time, Jaren Kale, the legendary hunter, was not the apex of this environment. He was part of it. And survival depended not on arrogance, but on intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork. That night, as they camped under the alien canopy, the glowing eyes returned. But this time, the humans watched calmly. They were learning. They were adapting. The hunters of Nox 9 were formidable, but humans, as Leora reminded them, could be even more dangerous when they used their minds. The hunt had changed. The hunter was no longer just Jaren Kale. The prey had become the teacher, and the humans had begun to learn the rules of this deadly, brilliant, and merciless world. The air on Nox 9 was thick and humid, pressing against the humans like a living weight. Captain Jaren Kale wiped sweat from his brow, his eyes scanning the jungle with a new kind of caution. The past encounters had taught him one simple truth. This planet was alive, intelligent, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Doctor. Leora Vance led the team with quiet authority. Her observations had become critical. Every movement through the jungle was deliberate, every footstep measured. She pointed out subtle patterns, tracks that weren't random, broken branches that marked paths, even the glow of certain plants that acted as natural signals. We can't just move blindly anymore, she said. We need a plan. We need to predict, anticipate, and adapt. Jaren grunted, adjusting his rifle. I've survived worse. I don't need a plan. I need my instincts. Leora shook her head gently. Instincts aren't enough here. These creatures learn faster than we react. If we don't adapt, they'll pick us off one by one. The first strategy came naturally. They began observing the patterns of the creatures, studying the tracks and the disturbances in the undergrowth. They noticed that the predators often tested them with feints, small attacks designed not to kill, but to measure. We can use that, Leora said. They expose themselves when they think we're distracted. We can anticipate their moves. Jaren's pride bristled at the suggestion. He had always relied on strength and reflex, not observation. Yet, as they moved forward, he began to see the truth. The hunters of Nox 9 were not animals. They were intelligent, calculating, and capable of adaptation. The first trap they set was simple. They baited a path with a heat source, mimicking the presence of humans, while the team observed from a hidden position. Soon a creature emerged, its skin shimmering to blend with the jungle. It approached cautiously, testing the bait. Wait, now, Leora whispered. Jaren fired a plasma bolt, striking near, but not on the creature. It recoiled, startled, then retreated into the jungle, leaving the humans unharmed. That's it, Leora said, a small smile on her face. We can control the engagement. They test us. We teach them to respect our space. Jaren nodded slowly, the lesson sinking in. Humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, strategists, and innovators. Even in a world designed to kill them, they could find a way to live. The day passed with careful movement through the dense jungle. Every sound, every rustle of leaves was noted. Leora began teaching the team how to interpret the jungle's signs. See that branch? She said, pointing to a tree whose trunk bent unnaturally. It's been pushed down deliberately. They watch us and they mark their presence. It's a warning. Jaren frowned, studying the branch. Or a trap, he muttered. Either way, we adapt. By evening, the team had made slow but steady progress. They set camp in a small clearing, choosing a spot that offered visibility in all directions. Jaren still maintained his weapons, but he listened more than he spoke. Leora's influence was growing, guiding them to survive using knowledge rather than just force. That night, the jungle came alive again. The creatures watched silently, glowing eyes hidden in the shadows. They did not attack, but the humans felt their presence. Every snap of a twig, every distant call was a reminder. This was not a world to conquer, but a world to survive. Morning brought a new test. A river cut through the jungle, its waters moving fast and clear. Crossing it was dangerous, the current strong, the banks slippery. As the crew stepped carefully, creatures watched from hidden perches, their eyes reflecting intelligence and calculation. "Stay sharp," Leora warned. "They study us. They know the terrain better than we do." Jaren took the lead, moving cautiously. The first creature appeared, a semi-transparent predator with elongated limbs. It didn't charge, but it circled, testing their reactions. The humans adjusted, mimicking patterns they had learned from observation, and crossed safely. "We survive by learning," Leora said softly. "Not by fighting blindly." Over the next few days, the humans refined their strategy. They set simple traps, learned the creatures' signals, and began predicting their behavior. Jaren, who had always relied on physical prowess, now combined it with observation and strategy. He found himself respecting Leora's wisdom, though he would never admit it aloud. One afternoon, a sudden roar echoed through the jungle. The ground shook and the creatures emerged, not one but a coordinated group. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they circled the humans, testing their reactions. Jaren raised his rifle instinctively, but Leora stopped him. "Wait, observe, learn, they are communicating." The creatures' behavior confirmed her theory. They were intelligent, organized, and capable of strategy. Jaren adjusted their formation, teaching the team to respond as a unit rather than as individuals. The creatures tested their defenses, but the humans adapted, moving as one. When the predators finally retreated, it was clear that the humans had passed the first real test. They had survived not through brute force, but through observation, adaptation, and teamwork. That evening, the team gathered around their camp. Jaren sat quietly, reflecting on the lessons learned. "I thought we came here to hunt," he said, "but it seems we came to learn." Leora smiled. "Exactly. Humans survive because we can think, adapt, and innovate. Even in the deadliest worlds, we find a way." The next morning brought another challenge. The humans had discovered a network of vines that moved as if alive. They tested it carefully, setting simple decoys and observing the response. The creatures reacted predictably, and the humans used that knowledge to navigate safely through the dense jungle. "We are turning the tables," Leora said. "We understand their strategies, and we can use that to our advantage. But remember, we must respect them. They are intelligent, they are capable, and they will not be defeated by arrogance alone." Jaren nodded, a quiet determination settling over him. He had learned the hardest lesson of all. Survival on Nox 9 required humility, intelligence, and adaptability. The hunter could no longer rely on strength alone. By the end of the week, the humans had made significant progress. They moved through the jungle with purpose, predicting ambushes, setting clever traps, and observing the creatures' patterns. Every day was a lesson, every encounter a test. Yet despite the danger, there was exhilaration. The humans felt alive in a way they never had before. They were being challenged not just physically, but mentally. They were learning, adapting, and proving once again why humanity could survive anywhere. One night, as they rested under the alien canopy, Jaren spoke quietly to Leora. "I never thought I'd say this, but these creatures are smart, smarter than I expected." Leora nodded. "Yes, and they are testing us, but the difference is we can learn faster, we adapt, and we survive." Jaren smiled faintly. "Then I guess humans can survive anywhere." "Even here?" Leora's eyes glinted in the soft light. "Yes, Captain, that is why humans endure. We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, but we can learn, think, and adapt. That is our edge." The jungle around them remained alive, watching silently. The predators were still out there, testing, observing, calculating. But the humans were ready. They had learned the first crucial truth of Nox 9. Survival was not about domination. It was about intelligence, strategy, and respect. And in that moment, as the team huddled together under the glowing canopy, they understood something deeper. Humans were hunters, yes, but they were also learners, thinkers, and survivors. And on Nox 9, that might be the only thing that could keep them alive. The hunt had changed once again. The hunter was no longer just Jaren Kale. The humans were becoming strategists, turning every challenge into an opportunity. The creatures of Nox 9 were clever, but humans were cleverer. And as dawn broke over the alien jungle, casting its strange light over twisted trees and glowing vines, the humans stepped forward with confidence. They would survive, they would adapt, they would endure. The hunt was far from over, but the humans were ready. The jungle of Nox 9 seemed quieter that morning, though the humans knew better than to trust appearances. Every shadow, every rustling leaf was a reminder that they were never truly alone. Captain Jaren Kale led the team cautiously, his usual confidence tempered by the lessons of the past days. The hunters of Nox 9 were clever, adaptable, and relentless in their observation. Dr. Leora Vance walked slightly ahead, scanning the undergrowth. Her notebook was already full of observations, tracks, broken branches, subtle disturbances in the soil. Each clue hinted at intelligence. Each pattern suggested a plan. "They're not just predators," she said quietly, as if speaking to herself. "They're strategists." Jaren nodded, acknowledging her words. "And smart ones," he added. "Every time we think we understand them, they surprise us." Their first test that day came at a narrow canyon, its walls lined with sharp rocks and strange vines that glowed faintly in the low light. The humans had to pass through it to continue deeper into the jungle. Leora noticed the signs immediately, small indentations in the rocks, disturbances in the soil, traces of creatures that had moved here recently. "They've been here," she whispered. "They're watching." Jaren raised his plasma rifle, scanning the shadows. "Then let's make sure they see us too." The humans proceeded carefully, moving as a coordinated team. Every step was calculated. Leora pointed out patterns in the glowing plants which seemed to react to movement. "They're like sensors," she explained. "Anything we do changes the environment, they see it, they learn from it." Suddenly the air shifted. A faint vibration ran through the canyon, subtle but deliberate. Then multiple creatures appeared, tall, lithe, and blending perfectly with the jungle. Their eyes glowed softly, intelligent and calculating. They didn't charge immediately. They circled, testing the humans' reactions. "Observe," Leora whispered. "Do not act unless necessary." "Learn," Jaren gritted his teeth but obeyed. The humans remained still, noting the movements of the predators. Each action, each shift of weight seemed meaningful. The creatures were not acting on instinct alone. They were communicating, coordinating, and adapting. After several tense moments, the creatures withdrew silently, leaving behind only faint tracks. The humans exhaled collectively, their relief tempered by understanding. Survival depended on more than firepower. Knowledge and observation were their greatest weapons. Leora led the team to a small clearing nearby. Here, they captured a minor creature, small enough to study safely. They observed its behavior carefully, noting gestures, reactions, and sounds. Even the smallest predator displayed remarkable intelligence, reacting to changes in their strategy and avoiding harm deliberately. "These creatures are learning from us," Leora said, her voice calm but firm. "They are teaching each other. And they adapt faster than we anticipated." Jaren crouched beside her, studying the creature. "So we fight them," he said slowly, "or we outthink them." Leora shook her head. "We survive because we can outthink them. Fighting blindly will get us killed. Understanding them, that gives us an edge." The day passed with careful observation. The humans set simple traps not to harm but to study responses. They noted how the predators reacted, which paths they avoided, and which signals they used among themselves. Each insight gave the humans a small advantage. By evening, a sense of cautious respect had developed. The humans realized that dominance alone would not ensure survival. Instead, patience, intelligence, and teamwork would be key. Then, the jungle shifted again. A larger, more formidable predator emerged. A massive creature, taller than any human, its limbs long and agile. Unlike previous encounters, it did not retreat. It observed, tilted its head, and seemed to communicate with the smaller creatures nearby. Jaren gripped his rifle, ready for confrontation, but Leora stepped forward. "Wait, watch, learn." The creature circled them slowly, analyzing every move. It paused, then retreated slightly, testing their reactions. The humans moved as one, maintaining formation, responding carefully to each subtle threat. They did not attack, but they did not panic. "This is the moment we've been preparing for," Leora said quietly. "We test ourselves and we test them." Jaren nodded. He had learned humility in the jungle. He understood that brute strength alone was no longer enough. Survival required observation, strategy, and patience. The creature finally withdrew into the dense foliage, leaving only faint traces behind. The humans exhaled, aware that the jungle had just shown them a new level of intelligence. These predators were not mindless. They were deliberate, coordinated, and capable of planning. That night, the humans camped with renewed caution. Every movement was calculated, every sound analyzed. Jaren found himself reflecting quietly on the lessons of the past days. He had always been the hunter, the one to lead and dominate. But Nox 9 had taught him something crucial. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they could learn, adapt, and innovate. The next morning brought a deeper understanding. The humans began setting more complex strategies, observing and predicting predator behavior. They left subtle markers in the environment, misleading the creatures, testing how they would respond. Each experiment provided insight into the intelligence and social structure of the predators. Leora pointed out patterns in the behavior. See how they circle back, communicate, and avoid our traps. They are not instinctive alone. They think, they plan, they learn from mistakes. Jaren nodded. Then we need to do the same. Every step must have purpose. Every move must be deliberate. By mid-afternoon, they reached a high vantage point, overlooking a valley filled with dense foliage. From this height, they could observe movements without being seen. Leora noted the subtle signs of coordinated hunting, creatures signaling each other, marking territory, and responding to environmental changes. They have organization, she said. They are capable of teamwork just like us, but they lack our flexibility. That is our advantage. Jaren studied the valley below. Then we survive because we think faster, adapt quicker, and learn from every encounter, not because we shoot first or charge blindly. The humans spent hours observing, noting weaknesses in predator behavior and subtle cues that could help them anticipate attacks. Every observation was a small victory, a step toward understanding the deadly intelligence around them. Evening brought a final test. A group of predators approached from the valley, moving with stealth and coordination. This time, the humans used what they had learned. They laid clever decoys, hid in calculated positions, and responded to attacks with strategy rather than panic. The predators circled, tested, and feinted, but the humans adapted in real time. By the end of the encounter, not a single human was harmed. The creatures withdrew, and for the first time, the humans had truly controlled an engagement. Jaren exhaled, a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction washing over him. "We've learned something important today," he said quietly. "We survive not because we're the strongest, but because we can learn, adapt, and outthink even the deadliest predators." Leora smiled. "Exactly. And that is why humans endure. On any world, in any environment, we survive because we can learn faster than anything trying to kill us." As night fell, the jungle seemed less threatening, though still alive with glowing eyes and silent observers. The humans had gained confidence, but they knew better than to underestimate Nox 9. The predators were clever, coordinated, and patient. Survival required vigilance, strategy, and constant adaptation. Jaren looked at Leora, a rare moment of humility in his expression. "I used to think being the hunter meant strength alone. I was wrong. Intelligence, patience, and teamwork, that's what keeps us alive." Leora nodded. "And remember, Captain, they are still learning, but so are we." The humans settled for the night, understanding that the jungle had tested them and they had passed, not by killing, not by domination, but by learning, adapting, and respecting the intelligence around them. And as they slept, the predators watched, silent but aware. They had learned from humans too. The jungle was alive with a deadly intelligence, but the humans were proving themselves capable, resilient, and adaptive. The hunt had become a lesson, and the students, humanity, were excelling. Tomorrow, the jungle would challenge them again. But the humans were ready. They had learned the first great truth of Nox 9. Understanding the enemy, respecting intelligence, and adapting strategy were the keys to survival. And as the first light of dawn touched the alien canopy, the humans prepared to move forward with a new kind of confidence. They had survived not by force alone, but by thinking, observing, and adapting. The hunters of Nox 9 were intelligent, but humans were smarter. And in that knowledge, they found hope, strength, and the first true taste of victory in a world designed to kill. The jungle of Nox 9 stretched endlessly before the humans, a living, breathing labyrinth of danger and intelligence. Captain Jaren Kale adjusted his armor, scanning the dense foliage with a steady hand. The past days had taught him lessons that no amount of combat experience could convey. Strength alone was meaningless here. Observation, adaptability, and intelligence were what kept humans alive. Dr. Leora Vance walked beside him, her eyes bright with awareness. She carried her notebook and a small scanner, recording every subtle change in the environment. The team moved cautiously but with confidence. They had survived attacks, learned predator patterns, and adapted faster than the jungle had expected. "We need to move carefully today," Leora said. "The predators are more organized than ever." "They've learned from us and they may try something new," Jaren nodded. "We've learned too. Today we control the hunt, not them." The humans advanced into a particularly dense part of the jungle where the canopy blocked most of the sunlight. The air was heavy with humidity and the strange, bioluminescent plants cast eerie shadows. Every sound, every rustle was magnified. Suddenly the jungle came alive. Eyes glowed from the shadows, intelligent, coordinated, and numerous. Dozens of creatures emerged, circling silently, moving with precision. This was not a chance encounter, it was a calculated challenge. "They're testing us," Leora whispered. "They want to see if we've truly learned." Jaren gritted his teeth. "Then we show them." He motioned for the team to spread out, using the tactics they had practiced over the past week. Observation first, reaction second, attack only if necessary. The creatures advanced, but the humans were ready. They had studied patterns, set decoys, and learned to read the jungle like a living map. When a large predator lunged at one of the crew, Jaren anticipated its movement and blocked its path without firing a shot. Another creature attempted a flank, only to find itself met with coordinated human positioning. "This is it," Leora said quietly. "Our strategy versus theirs. Let's see who adapts faster." The jungle erupted into a tense dance of movement. Predators tested, humans responded. Each encounter was brief but critical. The creatures were intelligent and relentless, but the humans had learned patience, observation, and quick adaptation. Jaren found himself thinking differently now. He no longer saw the predators as mere beasts. They were thinkers, strategists, and survivors. Respect replaced arrogance. Hours passed, the battle of wits continuing without casualties. The humans set traps that taught the predators caution. They avoided direct confrontation, using misdirection and observation to control the engagement. Every move they made was deliberate, every reaction precise. Finally, the largest predator, the alpha, emerged. Its size was intimidating, its skin shimmering with a camouflage that made it almost invisible in the jungle shadows. Its eyes, intelligent and calculating, locked onto Jaren. This was the moment the captain had feared and anticipated. He crouched, raising his rifle slowly, not to fire but to observe. Leora signaled the team to hold. The predator circled, testing their formation, gauging their reactions. For the first time, Jaren felt a true connection with another intelligent species. This creature was a worthy opponent, not because it could kill them, but because it thought, learned, and adapted. "Do not attack," Leora whispered. "We survive through understanding. Show them we are not prey, but equals in thought." Jaren lowered his rifle slightly, mirroring her caution. The alpha circled once more, then paused, tilting its head as if acknowledging their intelligence. Slowly, it stepped back into the jungle, the smaller creatures following. The humans remained still, holding their position, breathing steadily until the last shadow disappeared. Silence returned, heavy and profound. The jungle was quiet, but it was not empty. It was alive, aware, and respectful. Jaren exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from his chest. He had survived countless worlds, faced countless predators, but this was different. He had learned humility, patience, and strategy. He had faced a hunter capable of thought and lived, not through strength alone, but through human ingenuity. Leora smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You see now, Captain, survival isn't about domination. It's about respect, understanding, and adaptation. Humans endure because we think, learn, and innovate." Jaren nodded quietly. "I understand now, and I respect them. I respect this world. We survived not because we were stronger, but because we were smarter." The team regrouped, exhausted but victorious. They had not killed a single predator unnecessarily. They had learned, adapted, and survived. The jungle had tested them, and they had passed. That evening, as the humans made camp under the glowing canopy, Jaren reflected on Leora's words from the first day. Did any of them hunt you back? He turned to her, a quiet smile forming. Yes, he admitted softly. Some of them did, and they taught me more than any hunt ever could. I respect them, and I respect this world. Leora nodded. And that is what makes humans remarkable. We survive not because we are the strongest, but because we can learn, adapt, and respect life, even when it challenges us. The crew settled for the night, the glowing eyes of the jungle watching silently. But this time there was no fear. There was respect, understanding, and cautious optimism. Humans had faced one of the deadliest worlds in the galaxy and emerged alive, not through arrogance or force, but through intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. Over the following days, the humans moved carefully through the jungle, still aware of the predators but confident in their ability to survive. Every encounter was a test, but the humans were prepared. They understood patterns, anticipated attacks, and used strategy over strength. Jaren led the team with a newfound humility. He taught them not only survival techniques, but also the importance of observation and learning. The jungle was still dangerous, but humans had proven that intelligence, adaptation, and teamwork were powerful tools, even against the most intelligent predators. By the end of the mission, the humans had mapped significant portions of the jungle, documented predator behavior, and collected samples for study. They had survived every challenge Nox 9 had thrown at them. And more importantly, they had learned a crucial truth. Strength alone could not conquer a death world, but intelligence, strategy, and respect could ensure survival. As the shuttle prepared to leave the planet, Jaren looked out over the dense canopy one last time. The predators remained, watching silently, living their lives in the shadows. But the humans were gone, carrying with them the lessons of survival, respect, and adaptation. Leora stood beside him. We survived because we observed, learned, and adapted. That is what humans do best, Jaren nodded. And now I know the jungle didn't defeat us. We survived because we were human, because we think, learn, and endure. That is what sets us apart. As the shuttle rose into the sky, leaving the glowing jungle of Nox 9 behind, the humans looked back with quiet pride. They had faced intelligent predators, adapted strategies in real time, and survived a world designed to kill them. They had learned respect for life and intelligence beyond humanity. And in that moment, Captain Jaren Kale understood the final lesson of Nox 9. Survival was not about hunting, not about dominance, and not about brute force. It was about observation, learning, adaptability, and respect. The jungle had hunted them, but humans had survived. And in surviving, they had become wiser, stronger, and more human than ever before. As the stars stretched out beyond the atmosphere, the captain whispered softly to himself, "Yes, some of them did hunt me back, and I am grateful for it." The crew smiled quietly, knowing that they had achieved something remarkable. They had faced death, adapted, survived, and emerged victorious, not through violence, but through intelligence, observation, and respect. Nox 9 remained alive, mysterious, and dangerous, but the humans carried with them the proof that they could endure anywhere. The galaxy was full of threats, but humanity had once again proven itself capable. And in that proof, in that survival, the humans had achieved something greater than victory. They had achieved understanding. The hunt was over, but the lessons would last a lifetime.